Reading from the Japa Reform Notebook by His Holiness Satsvarup Das Goswami Maharaj. Srila Prabhupada was chanting Hare Krishna when he came to New York City in 1966. One could have thought, well, he is Indian, sannyasi. This is his religion, it's not mine. But then, when you become his disciple, his servant, then you chant Hare Krishna because he is the spiritual master and he says that this is the process. And when you become the servant and you chant in that way, then the name will reveal itself to you. But you can't chant without that connection with the spiritual master as his servant. This is the meaning of Diksha. Quote, it is the spiritual master who delivers the disciple from the clutches of Maya by initiating him into the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. In this way, a sleeping human being can revive his consciousness by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. In other words, the spiritual master awakens the sleeping living entity to his original consciousness so that he can worship Lord Vishnu. This is the purpose of Diksha or initiation. Unquote. So for any disciple to make advancement in spiritual life, he must guard carefully against this offense. He must not neglect the orders of the spiritual master.
The aspect of awakening of the jiva is a very important talk in the scriptures, because there are sleeping jivas, there are awakened jivas. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna talks about Janisha Sarva Bhutanam Tasyam Jagrati Samyami Yasyam Jagrati Bhutani Sanisha Pashyato Mune. He says, what is a night for the living entities is day for the introspective sage. And what is night for the introspective sage is actually day for the conditioned souls, he says. The actual meaning of this is the living entities delight in nourishment they receive from the three gunas, which is actually, it is called as mixed happiness. Mixed happiness means it appears like happiness, but actually it is suffering. So, but the living entities cannot recognize that, because of the little droplets of Kamanalam Mudulabai Shamayan Durapai, like the Prahlad Maharaj says. There are some apparent droplets of pleasure kept, because of which the living entities foolishly delight in suffering. Even our Prachetas in one prayer said also, Avishkritam na klishtaya. They are saying that we are such conditioned souls who delight in suffering. We are so foolish that we consider suffering to be happiness and the spiritual bliss to be painful. The process of attaining the spiritual bliss may apparently be painful in the beginning, but that is the greatest achievement that we don't realize, they are saying. So the spiritual master wakes up the sleeping jiva from this pathetic state. Just like Indra was once cursed to be a pig in a ditch. He was in a pathetic state, but he was thinking it is delight. So this is the greatest curse for the conditioned soul. So, but who can wake us up? Because other conditioned souls are also delighting in sense gratification, considering that to be happiness. Actually it is suffering, like the camel's pleasure. Prabhupada says, camel is eating the cactus which appears very soft, but it is very thorny. It is tearing its own gums and drinking its own blood. So these sufferings are termed as so-called happiness, material happiness. So ordinarily, no jiva can wake up on his own. No conditioned soul can wake up another conditioned soul. We need a liberated soul to wake up a conditioned soul. And the liberated soul is the spiritual master, who, by administering the chanting of the holy name, it is actually a sarvaroga nivarani, medicine, the chanting. Even the hearing of the Srimad Bhagavatam is also called as Bhava Aushadat, Shrotra Manobhiramat. By hearing of the Srimad Bhagavatam and chanting of the holy name, these are actually the curative medicines. By taking these medicines, one can cure the ills of the conditioned soul who is sleeping. And then when one wakes up, then the behavior is totally different. Like Rahugana, he was asleep while roughly behaving with Jadabharata. But once he woke up, then his behavior became to the standard of an ideal devotee. In the same manner, you will find Arjuna was lamenting. After hearing the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna woke up. He was no more sleeping. And Devahuti was also, wanting so many materialistic things in the beginning. But after hearing from her son, she became awakened devotee. You will find like this throughout the scriptures, innumerable examples. The spiritual master comes to enlighten the disciple, purify his heart. Chitraketu and his wives, they had a great enlightenment and awakening by the speech of the small boy who got up from the death and who spoke words of wisdom to them. So this awakening is actually the goal of life, and that is not made possible by our own endeavor or by the endeavor of other conditioned souls who may only pamper our lives, and they may not be able to do any good to us. But the Guru comes in our life to cleanse our heart and wake us up to the reality of Krishna's lotus feet. Therefore, understanding this greatest gift awarded by the spiritual master, one should not neglect his instruction, one should not overlook it, one should not disobey it, and one should not remain submerged in the ignorance, unwilling to come out of the comfort zone by shaking and waking up oneself. Rather, one should faithfully follow the instructions and be willing to be cleansed and bathed and purified and elevated and placed in Krishna's lotus feet by the chanting of the holy name. Harinam Prabhu ki